clarity and focus. Question. What is another obstacle that we see in our communities that nobody really wants to talk about, that hinders people from being able to be in a state of mind to take advantage of resources at their disposal? I'll tell you. Opportunists. Right? Opportunists can be people who see an opportunity to get clout by being in these communities and their face being seen all the time, but they're not doing anything. We see that a lot with nonprofits like Operation Dignity. They show up, but I haven't seen them treat anyone dignified yet. And if that's their way of approaching things, is what they think treating people dignified looks like, oof, I hate to see what they treat people like as undignified. But see, here's the thing. We got to this location today. We were told that some people were being displaced, and we got there and the city was already, like, Public Works was already overbearingly moving equipment around and pushing closer to people every couple of minutes, and Operation Dignity was there, but they were sitting off essentially in a van and air conditioning to the side as people were trying to scramble to get their belongings, right? But they weren't offering any assistance in helping people move stuff, which begs the question, what are you doing here? So they offered one person a community cabin, but she kept saying, I need to get my stuff. And here's the thing, like, that's fine, and everybody starts complaining about how she's taking hours to get her belongings. And the question I beg is, have you guys given her any bags or anything? Has anyone offered to help this woman get her property from point A to point B? No. Nobody did. So, Operation Dignity, what are you doing here? You come, you offer her a community cabin, she accepts it, right? But you don't help her out in any way in moving her stuff, so she's hindered, right? She moves very slow. Yes, she has some substance abuse stuff going on. Yes, she has some mental health stuff going on. But at the end of the day, your job is to make sure people get from point A to point B. We can't do that. We can't offer human beings a hand. And then the city, right? Yeah, this is your job. This is how you feed your family. This is how you support, your family. And, that's all good. Like, I'm in full support of that. What I'm not in support of, though, is when someone is actually trying to help someone and you're telling people, get what you need and leave so that we can clean this up, but you're not allowing the people in that are actually really trying to help them. Rachel was ready to pull her truck in so she could help tow a few vehicles out, right? Listen, the city's going to pay that tow fee, right? They don't have a tow company for free. They're not towing stuff themselves for free. So they have to pay somebody to come and do the tow. You would much rather waste that money and purposely displacing people than allow them the opportunity to have their vehicle moved and save yourself some money, right? Not just that, but it clearly states that if a person has a way of moving their stuff, like, you're supposed to allow them to. But the Public Works people don't want to allow that, right? So they made a barrier and they wouldn't allow anybody through the street, right? And then they got a little bobcat out and attached a mattress to it and started moving it up the street like so. And I went and I stood in front of it and the guy tried to run me over. So I stood on top of the mattress so he couldn't run me over and I could move with it. Then I jumped on top of the Bobcat and I sat down. Right? And he still tried to swing me off of it. Right? Some may say, Vincent, that's inappropriate. You shouldn't be doing that. Right? You could get really hurt. I can get really hurt. But what hurts even more is when people have nothing in the world, right? And they're being told they need to move and that they can get whatever they need, right? But they're not being given the assistance to do that. And then you start to overbearingly push towards them like you're going to destroy their stuff. And they will destroy their stuff. So what ends up happening is, like, I'm sitting on this and the guy from Public Works is like, you need to get off. And I'm like, no. I said, I'm making a positive protest right now, right, by sitting on this equipment, right, until I'm not getting down off of here until you guys agree that you won't go past this point. And I pointed them to where somebody was still actively moving stuff out. Right? In a perfect world, what would have ended up happening for them is that we wouldn't have showed up and they would have had everybody displaced by 11 o'clock and they would have been on their way back home or to the shop or wherever they go. But see, we made that not possible for them because we made them stop doing what they were doing so that people could actually get the items that they needed. What's stopping people from getting the assistance that they need? That's stopping them. When one couple was trying to move their van and they're trying to figure out like what lug nut or what locking key is they need for the wheel because they can't get the wheel off and they need time to go and get the tool and they can't afford the tool, so we got to go get the tool, right? And we're trying to be solution based because we always are, but the city or Project Dignity doesn't want to work with anybody, or at least Public Works. I can't say the city because there's a few people that come out with the city that really try to be a voice of reason, right? And really try to offer people the assistance that they could use. But when it comes to Public Works and Operation Dignity being on site, it's a completely different story. So what happens is we get them to stop long enough to really gauge what's going on and what the necessity is in the area so that we can actually start to talk to people individually to see what it is they need assistance with. Then we can pull out bags and we can say, hey, such and such, here's 10 56-gallon bags, right? Do you need more? If you need more, we have more. Would you like some help moving whatever it is you need? Hey, where are you going? Okay, you're going to go over here. Would you like some help moving your stuff over there? It's quite simple when I'm using a car in comparison to the equipment that Public Works has. But see, Public Works can't do that. Why? For liability reasons? And so there was one woman who so desperately was trying to move her stuff, and I speak to what's stopping people from getting the assistance that they need. San Francisco Chronicle. You will all see that I will post a picture of them. The San Francisco Chronicle was out today. And as much as we were trying to communicate with this woman to get her to get the stuff that she wanted to keep, right? Like, this guy from the San Francisco Chronicle kept going into her area and having side conversations with her, and it would stop the whole process. And it became quite clear that he was actually doing more damage than he was good. Listen, news media, if you want to come out and you want to get a story, fine. That's great. You get to do whatever you want because the power of the press is behind you. But when we're talking about people's lives, right, and livelihoods being at stake, you have no right to be overbearing for a story. They said they've been following this woman for three days now, but at what point do you step back and allow other people, right, to help? At what point do you stop trying to manipulate her in a way just so you can make a good story? Because you are hindering her from taking advantage of the resources that are at her disposal. Now, she was offered a community cabin. Unlike everyone else, She was offered a community cabin. She accepted it, and her son are going to go there. But she said, I would like to get my stuff, and I need my truck because I have a buyer, and I'm going to sell this truck, and she could use the money. Instead, at 11 o'clock, she's like, okay, I'm going to have everything that I'm taking out. This is what she tells me. I'm going to have everything that I'm taking out by noon, and then we can leave, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, where are you going to go? And she said, I'm going to go to a cabin. At this point, that was all it was about, was a cabin. Operation Dignity was sitting in their van still. They told her they had a cabin for her, but they didn't do anything else to help her prep. Not once did they pull out bags. Not once did they put on gloves and ask this woman if they could help her, right? They said, we have a cabin for you if you want to go, right? And then went and sat back in their van. I'm sorry to tell you, Operation Dignity, but the unhoused in Oakland do not trust you for your lack of ability to show up in a dignified manner. 9 out of 10 of them don't want your cabin. They don't want to talk to your people. Why? Because not only do your people physically assault the unhoused, they disrespect them, they harass them, they discriminate against them, they treat people essentially like trash. So it gets to the point where she's not making any progress because she has all of these different people in her ear. And finally, they come to me and say, hey, Vincent, can you please talk to her? And I'm like, why do you want me to talk to her? Well, we just feel like you'd be able to talk to her and help her get a move on because we really need to get whatever she's not going to take with her. And we got to clear the street up today. And I said, so now you all want my help. When you've been overbearing all day, you've been inconsiderate, and they're like, yeah. So it's a little afternoon, right? And I go and I speak to the woman and I said, hey, how you doing, love? And she's like, I'm okay, just trying to get my stuff together here. I said, hey, how can I help you? I have my gloves on already, right? There's 2 other people with me. And I'm like, how can we help? And she's like, well, I need some, boom, bags. Here you go, here's some bags. I don't know how I'm going to get my stuff to the cabin. And then all of a sudden, like, the cabin comes up in conversation again. And we ask Operation Dignity, like, about the cabin because she's ready to go. And Operation Dignity tells her that no longer is a cabin available today. She will have to wait until tomorrow. So where is she supposed to go with all of this stuff? Because you could have told her earlier that there was a time limit on that, right? And then come to find out the cabin that they were offering her wouldn't be available anyways until tomorrow. But where's she supposed to go for the night? The tent that she lives in is right here. The vehicle that she has that she can live in and shelter is right here. You guys are taking all of that. Where is she supposed to go for the evening? So she finds this out and I find this out at the same moment. Boop. What is the solution to this? How can we help restore some sense of dignity to this woman, right, as she's being displayed? Not just her, but her and her son, who is a starving musician. Her son is a starving musician, and he had thousands of dollars worth of instruments in their area that he uses to make his money to support him and his mom. Do you expect for them to move to some unknown area on some unknown street? Because that's essentially what they were expecting. Because one person just outright said, we know they're just going to move to another area and it'll just be a matter of time before we go and clear that out. And I'm like, you don't think that they'll come back here because this is safe for them? So what is she supposed to do for the evening? Well, she can always go somewhere else. And I said, nothing's available, no shelter bed, no nothing. Well, it's too late to, but it's 1 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock. But we always remain solution based, right? So the approach switches, and I tell her, I said, you know, I have a car, right? The other two people that were with us, they had vehicles. I said, we all have vehicles, right? You feel free to load as much stuff as you want in this vehicle, right? I said, and like, we will get you into a hotel for the night with the understanding that Operation Dignity will have you in a cabin first thing in the morning. And the people from Operation Dignity were like, yeah, she will be in a cabin tomorrow morning, right? So, like, we were able to work with this woman who has dual diagnosis to condense the stuff that she needed, get it loaded up, and get her to a hotel. A hotel in which we never told the San Francisco Chronicle we were going to. But no sooner had we got all of the stuff out of the cars, did the two people from San Francisco Chronicle walk up. And I'm like, how did you know she was here? And the guy was like, she told us. And I said, no, she didn't, because I was standing right there when you asked me to tell you what hotel she was going to, because she wouldn't tell you. And they said, well, we've been running this story for 3 days. And I said, you understand how overbearing this is? This motel has 24 people that are unhoused in it, struggling. And they don't want to be in pictures with you. They don't want to be highlighted by whatever you're doing, right? I said, there's a reason why, like, it took so long, right, for her to gather her bearings, because you were overwhelming her. So what are you doing here besides causing more damage and chasing a story? What is stopping people from getting the resources they need, right? We go back to that. People won't like to hear this next part, but you know, this is for my brothers and sisters out there that's hustling, right? I know you feel like it's a lot of money to be made out there selling dope to people, right? I get it, because I come from that. I was part of the problem for the longest time, both doing drugs and selling them. But you know what? I woke up one day and I looked at the carnage around me, only to realize that this ain't. And so we talk about opportunists again, right? And the simple fact of it is that y'all just opportunists. Let's keep it real. Because even though, like, I did my little peddling, right? Back then, there weren't encampments like this. You know? If a tent pops up somewhere, right? And then it's 2, and then it's 4, and then it's 6, then 9 times out of 10, somebody who's peddling dope is in it. Opportunists. Some people are going to be like, Vincent, that's messed up. Like, why are you putting people on blast? It's the truth. It's the truth. We're talking about providing mental health and substance abuse programming for people, right? Kind of as a gateway to services, right? And when we're talking about doing that, we also have to open up a conversation about what it would look like to stop people from actually preying on the vulnerability of people that are in these areas. Because if we talk to somebody and they're like, yeah, I want to go into detox, like, let me get my stuff together, and then tomorrow I'll go into a program, and then we get there the next day, right, and they have such close access with their connect or their dealer, how hard do you think it's going to be to get that person into detox when it's right in front of their face 24/7? Opportunists. So listen, not one person is to blame for the issues that we see in our community. When I talk about opportunists, I talk about the white woman who walked up on my car as I had this woman in the passenger seat, taking her, getting ready to take her to the motel with all of her worldly belongings in here, right? And she shoves my card in my face and tells me, they said that you're the one that's supposed to be cleaning up the trash. What about the trash behind my house? And I said, I'm just sitting there listening. And she's like, what about the trash behind my house? She said, this was a beautiful neighborhood, and I used to be able to go for walks on the path behind my house, and now I can't go on a walk on the path because these animals bring in their rats and their shit and their this and their that. And I'm like, you make a good point. Can I ask you a question? And she said, what? Like I didn't have a place to speak. Like she was telling me what I was going to do while expressing her distaste for the woman that's sitting in the passenger seat that's falling apart because her only home that she knows, right, is being ripped down as we're parked there waiting to back up so that she doesn't have to watch this happen. But this woman wants to stand at the driver's side window and degrade her and me and basically tell me that it's my duty to come in and to clean up this trash. We will be more than happy to work with her to find a solution to what she sees. But see, the thing that we're not going to promote is bigotry, degradation, harassment, discrimination. We're not promoting any of that. And unfortunately, as much as we feel like people deserve to live comfortably in their communities, if you're going to treat people like animals, then you can get up off your ass and you can grab a shovel, you can grab some bags, you can grab some rakes, and you can go out there and you can do it yourself. Instead of relying on everyone else to do it. And she's like, and I'm like, wow, that's how you're going to, whoa. And she was like, what? And I was like, the way that you're talking to me is mind-boggling right now. Like, I don't understand, like, what I did to you. And she was like, you get paid to do I don't get paid. I'm sorry, but I don't get paid. Not yet. I will one day. Because this is my job. But I told her, ma'am, I don't get paid to do this right now. My salary doesn't kick in for another month, if it does kick in another month. And she was like, well, the city. And I said, but I don't work with the city. I don't work for the city. I said, I work for the community. I said, and we try our best to build bridges between everyone so that we can all find common solutions together that work for us all. Well, now you're just trying to talk down at me. And I'm like, I'm not trying to talk down at you. And she started yelling and yelling and yelling until the civilian technician from OPD walked up and was like, excuse me, miss, like, this gentleman has been a great help today. Can you please give him the opportunity to back up? And then another gentleman walks up with her and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, taking her to a motel. And he's like, well, why don't you clean the trash? And who are you? And he starts recording and taking pictures, and she starts recording and taking pictures, right? And the sad part about this is that this whole community off of Harrison and Oakland Ave over here have been so mean to these people. We have actually seen that in certain communities where both parts of the community like work together, it becomes more sustainable. People respect it more that are unhoused because they know and they feel a sense of belonging, right? But if people don't feel like they belong and they're treated like animals, guess what you're going to get back? There's a little something in a certain scripture that says, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. So if you don't want people to treat you like an animal, you shouldn't treat people like animals. But in the most inspiring part about all of it is that regardless of how this population of the unhoused are treated, they always respond with kindness. They're helping each other. Everybody's helping each other, trying to get tires, trying to get bags, trying to get tow vehicles. Like, everybody's working as a community to help each other. And when people come in and they have questions to ask, they stop what they're doing and they answer the questions, even if those people are being rude and disregarding them. Wow. Opportunists. Like, it wasn't good enough already that the city was so overbearing and they were displacing people the way that they were, that these people had to walk up and act like this. That the news can be out there, right? And bless his heart, the photographer was helping this woman move bags and stuff, and he was putting bags in my car and helping her bag stuff up. But, it's all for a photo op. This ain't a photo op, people. This is real life. This is real life. But is it now like 6,000 unhoused in Oakland? Significantly increasing by the day? This is real life. This ain't no photo op. Public Works asked me why I don't help people. Why I don't help them move the stuff. Why you don't help move trash? Why you don't get some bags? Why you don't get some gloves? Why you don't do this? Why you don't do that? And I laughed and I was like, man, if you only knew what we do. Happily and proudly. Without wanting any recognition. Without any real funding yet. Without any contracts. So, I guess the question would have to be, what's stopping you from taking part in community in a way that you can still have your biases and your opinion, but you can actually be effective? That we can all treat people in a humane manner. That everyone feels like they belong and no one feels like they have to be outcasted because of their experience. Because there's not a big difference between what happens in some people's tents and RVs and what happens in people's mansions. The only difference is that people that live in mansions are so afraid of what everybody else will think about them that they hide everything behind closed doors. Whereas people that live on the streets, they don't have anywhere to hide anything and they still keep their heads held high. It's amazing. It's amazing to me that, like, the heart that people have. And I'm so grateful for everyone who shows up and everyone who volunteers, like, and everyone who plays some type of part in community. It's really a beautiful thing when you see it just in person. That's why I always invite people to just come out. You hate it? You think they're animals? You think they're this? You think they're that? Feel free to feel how you feel. You're human. You have the right to do that. Right? No one can ever take that from you. But if you want to get a better understanding of how things are really working and what's really happening out here, you can't really know until you actually be part of something. Until you actually come out and talk to people and ask them what their experience is. Get to know their names. Get to know how the gentleman whose tent burned down on Saturday while we were doing a cleanup had just came from school. College student, living with his girlfriend in a tent. Mom's house is so small she can't have both of them there. Although she wants to. She checks on them, gives them food. They get to take showers. Right? They have the support that they need. But for the support that they need, they are starving college kids living in a tent. Living in a tent. And some random person drives by, jumps out of a car, sets their tent on fire, and hops back in the car and drives off. They keep setting their tents on fire, and they keep doing this, and These are kids. These were 2 kids living in a tent, college students. And the only thing that they wanted to salvage was their books so that they could make sure they could go back to school. They didn't care about anything else. Because the books were the most meaningful thing to them. And without those books, how are they going to get money to get more? We're hindering people's futures. We're hindering people's growth. And the only thing that's stopping us from getting to where we want to be as a society and as a community is us. Some of us don't want to admit that, but it's the truth. So if you're an opportunist, if you're a social media gangster or a troll, if you're someone who lives in a house and there's tents outside on the other side of the street or in your backyard, right? I feel your pain. I get it. I understand. We all do. None of us want that in our yards. None of us want that in our neighborhoods. But at the end of the day, people have to have somewhere to go. And unfortunately, there's not enough housing and resources for everyone because they're not being offered correctly for all of the ones that are at people's disposal. But I tell you what, if you put a fraction of that energy that you put into complaining about what you see into action, the amazing things that can happen. Y'all have a good one. Y'all have a good one. Check in with you soon. It's been a good day. It's been a good day. At least in my eyes it has. It's always a good day when you get to practice selflessness. Yeah.